Hello and welcome back to another AP Sports video. Today we are going to be talking about Baker Mayfield and really his stint with the Cleveland Browns so far, and I'm gonna give my judgment on what I think about Baker as a quarterback in the future. I have a thing where I give a rookie about 3 years to develop and kind of show us what they can do, especially on a team like Cleveland where they have never really done anything for their quarterbacks. So I like to give these players time before I really, give my true, honest opinion on what I think their future looks like in the league. But I think we have seen plenty from Baker Mayfield. But before I get into that, please do subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Like as well. We really appreciate the likes and the comments, and I love to go down. I try my best to reply to every comment, like every comment. It's something I really like to do, is discuss things in the comments with you guys. So please do subscribe, like, and comment, and yeah, we'll get right into the video. So, Baker Mayfield has been one of the more inconsistent quarterbacks. I mean, he came into the league in 2018. He was drafted number 1 overall by the Browns, and I'm sure you are all aware he had a very, very good rookie season as a quarterback. He broke the record for touchdowns by a rookie in a season. Justin Herbert just recently broke it, but still impressive nonetheless that Baker was able to do that. And he kind of shined on what was a disappointing season for the Cleveland Browns. And he opened the door for them because they'd never really had a quarterback stand out that early. Usually their quarterbacks just kind of stink because their team stinks and they have no, coaching or good role models on their team to form quarterbacks. They've never had a good coaching staff, and the coaching staff changes every year. I mean, once they got Hugh Jackson, he stayed there for a little bit, but there wasn't a lot of consistency. So Baker, he threw for 3,725 yards, 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions in his rookie season. Good. It's a good season. 14 interceptions is a lot, which is never good. He had a QB rating of 93.7. And he also had a 64% completion percentage. He was a pretty good quarterback, definitely a standout guy that year, and that's why he is seen as one of the better rookie seasons we've seen in a long time from a quarterback. Then I want to kind of get into 2019. So 2019 is kind of when Baker took a dip. I have my reasons for why I think that happened, but he threw for 3,827 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 21 interceptions. So that's not a good ratio whatsoever. He had a 78.8 QB rating and was throwing a 59.4% completion percentage. So these numbers I'm spitting at you really don't mean a lot for this 2019 season. So first off, I want to talk about the coaching. So Freddie Kitchens was obviously the head coach. They also had Todd Monken as their offensive coordinator. And as we saw, they both got fired immediately after that season. It was an extremely disappointing season. They were seen as a playoff team. Baker, Odell, Jarvis Landry, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, all those guys. And unfortunately, a lot of the blame got placed onto Baker. And most of the blame lies on the coaching staff. So the biggest problem I had with their offense is it relied so heavily on deep throws, and really Baker had no short reads. So he was throwing it like at least 10 yards a play. I mean, I didn't get a chance to look at the yards per attempt, but I'm sure it was higher that season than most other seasons. So it was disappointing to see talent wasted like that. So Baker had no short reads. The only thing he could do is wait for something to develop downfield. If his offensive line couldn't do anything, which they really weren't that great last season, he couldn't get the ball downfield. He didn't have the time, and I don't think that Todd Monken really understood that when he was giving Baker his reads, because there was nothing for Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt kind of came in later in that season because he was suspended, but he would have been perfect that season, and I wish that Todd Monken had seen that and been like, this guy's a great pass-catching running back. We need to utilize him and run him out on a wheel route or have him cut on a drag, a running back running a route is so helpful for a quarterback because if there's nothing else on the field, they know they can find their running back and throw it to him, and it's easy yards. Yes, it doesn't work every time, especially when you don't have a talented running back or if your offensive line can't give you enough time. But at that point, if nothing's developing downfield and you have no other option, Baker had to force a lot of his throws. So another big thing about that is his receivers, although they're big names, they had not the greatest season ever. I mean, they had better stats in a lot of their categories, but it was pretty bad because Baker had 21 interceptions, right? 21, that's a lot of interceptions, especially when he only threw 22 touchdowns. 7 of those interceptions were dropped passes from his receivers. 7 of them. 33% of those passes that Baker threw that were interceptions were completely not his fault. They hit his receiver in stride, in their hands. There was one horrible one. I think it was by Antonio Callaway. He was literally on the goal line with nobody within 10 feet of him. He had the ball and then it hit his knee and it popped up and then whoever they were playing intercepted it. I mean, it was really bad. I would like to say, I know that I'm not going to say this for a fact, but 2 to 3 more of those interceptions seem to be some sort of a miscommunication with the wide receiver or a badly run route. I don't want to make the assumption that those were the wide receiver's fault, not Baker maybe just having a wildly inaccurate throw, but those were not the greatest plays. There was one really weird toss he had, and it ended up in a lineman's hands. It was really bad, and I don't blame Baker for that because it was a botched play. Jarvis Landry couldn't get over and get the ball because he was blocked, and that's just what happened. That was the play design. Baker had nothing else to do, and yes, I do think he could have improvised, which I think he's gotten a lot better at this season. He didn't, and it ended up on the stat sheet as an interception, which then people looked at this stat sheet and went, oh, Baker, he's so bad. He's the reason the Browns are bad. But really, that isn't the case. Baker did have his downs. He was pretty inaccurate. He threw 59.4%. Yes, he did have those really deep throws, but every once in a while there'd be a slant and he would miss it. Baker was not the most accurate quarterback I've ever seen. He was actually pretty below average last season. And when you're a guy like Baker who can't 100% rely on your legs to extend the play, you've got to be pretty accurate. You can't be sitting back there for 4 or 5 seconds and then slinging it and throwing it 10 feet over the receiver's head. It happens to the greats. It happens to Tom Brady and Drew Brees and other guys like that. And I don't blame it. It happens. But Baker did it on an above-average pace, and that was a big problem I had with this season. But he has improved. So to move on from 2019, a very disappointing season, I want to talk about 2020. So this season, Baker came into it with a ton of pressure on his shoulders. The Browns were expected to be great last season. They were expected to be a playoff team. Some people had them as Super Bowl contenders. They failed drastically. They didn't even make the playoffs. They didn't get close. So Baker gets all this blame and all this hate, and people are like, why is he in all these commercials? Why is he getting all this advertising? Because he had such a great rookie season and then kind of didn't play very well the next season, and he still had contracts to fill, so he was getting a lot of hate online, and just, I'm sure people around him, like Browns fans, might not have been very happy with his play and kind of let him hear it, and that's nothing you want to give to your rookie, or I guess third season quarterback, junior year quarterback. You don't want to give him that pressure coming into a year where this could be a make or break for if they're going to give him a deal or not, Baker capitalized on the moment. He proved the doubters wrong. He started off a little slow. There were a couple pretty bad games in there. His inaccuracy was still showing. He wasn't making the greatest decisions. Decision-making wasn't on point. But as we move on through the season, he starts to get better and better. Around week 7 and 8 is when he became a lot better. You could see a noticeable step up. But then weeks 8, weeks 10, and weeks 11, week 9 was a bye. Those 3 weeks, he was in horrible weather conditions. So, he completed 12 passes in each of those games. No interceptions. The most attempts he had in a game over those 3 games was 25. It was windy. It was like 25 miles per hour on week 9. Week 10, it was very windy. Week 11, it was really rainy. Or I meant week 8. Week 8, it was really windy. Week 10, it was still windy. And week 11, it was raining. It was pouring rain. So that's not the ideal conditions for a quarterback. A very unlucky stretch. And it hurt his stats. Like, statistically, he did not throw for as many yards as his past 2 seasons because he had 3 games where he only completed 12 attempts solely due to weather. No quarterback can throw a perfect ball in 25 miles per hour winds. It's not something you can do. It's out of your control. So Baker's stats got hurt. I really think he could have thrown for 4,000, around 4,500 yards. I mean, he was averaging like 300 yards a game this season. So both those games, he only had like around 180, 190. So that hurt his stats, which I don't really take into full consideration when I evaluate a quarterback, but it's something to look at. You got to look at the stats to kind of get a good idea on what kind of season they had. Then Baker had an incredible performance on primetime television against the Ravens in what I think might be the game of the year. So, yes, they lost. Unfortunately, the Browns lost, but Baker Mayfield did everything possible to keep his team in the game. It was truly special what he did, like he was leading his team down the field in crunch time. I mean, he scored a touchdown to Kareem Hunt on like a wheel route. Exactly what I said they should be running, and Kareem Hunt did most of the work on that, but Baker engineered a drive and got them down to like the 30-yard line and had Kareem run it in with 1 minute and 5 seconds left. What are you going to do? Baker doesn't play defense. He can't stop Lamar Jackson from running down the field with Mark Andrews and kicking a game-winning field goal. That's not on Baker. Baker did everything he could to win that game, and I think it was one of the most impressive performances we've seen from him so far. This year truly was an eye-opener for me because I saw Baker as more of a leader. He seemed to have a lot of confidence, and he wasn't being cocky about it. He was calm, collected. When he scored his touchdowns, he had some funny celebrations. It happens. That's kind of Baker's personality. But I think his teammates really rallied around him. He lost Odell early in the season as well, so he was kind of limited with wide receivers. He had another game where against the Jets, which they lost, where he literally had no wide receivers. Like all 4 of his starting wide receivers, or 5 of them, were out because of COVID. So they had to bring up all practice squad receivers, which he might have never even met before, and played a professional football game against another professional team who, granted, is not very good, but the receivers were just not getting the job done, and Baker isn't Drew Brees. He can't work it like magic with no names. Like, that's Drew Brees' specialty. But Baker, he proved to me this season that I really do think he has a future in the league. I think he can someday win a Super Bowl. Hopefully it's with the Cleveland Browns. He deserves a big contract after this year. He proved to a lot of people wrong that he is the guy. And I was just really happy with what I saw from Baker. So, with all that said, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I really like Baker. I don't know what to say. I think he has a good future. I also think, one last thing, he is an underrated speedy guy. Like, you'll watch him play, and he'll kind of wow you with his speed sometimes. He'll hit the edge pretty fast and get in. I know he ran like a 4.8 something on his 40, but like, he's kind of got some wheels, if I'm being honest. Maybe it's just because he's running at the right time, nobody there. But he had a couple of runs that I saw that were just like, damn, Baker, that was fast. Like, you're kind of moving now. So, with that said, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you